of designing board games, and today we're going to take a look at the first board game that Paizo developed. What? Oh, I know what you're thinking. You're probably looking at this and thinking this is one of those goofy video intros where the content creator mistakes one product for another similar product and uses that to generate some cheap laughs at the start of their video. Well, to be honest, that's totally what I'm doing right now, but at the same time, this is genuinely one of the most complimentary things I could have done to open up this video. Today, we're going to talk about the game Elemental Stones, designed by Jason Bowman and Joe Pacini, on today's episode of The Local Disaster Tour Guide. Hello travelers and tourists, my name is Mark and I am the Local Disaster Tour Guide. That's right, I'm a storyteller here to talk about why I think the new board game's Elemental Stones really rocks. Oh come on, you knew the puns were going to be coming hard in this video. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of TTRPGs like Pathfinder and Starfinder, and in today's video, welcome to a small side quest to check out a new offering from Paizo, the board game Elemental Stones, which is the first in a new line of board games that Paizo is going to be developing. In the game Elemental Stones, you and up to 3 other players take on the role of elemental lords who are attempting to manipulate elemental energies in order to gain power and influence throughout the planes. This game involves laying elemental stones on a large hex grid board and attempting to complete various elemental patterns, as well as trying to accomplish secret objectives, all to get the most points by the end of the game. Paizo advertises this game as taking about 40 minutes to play, and in the playtesting I've done with my friends, that does seem to be a fairly accurate representation of a typical game of elemental stones. And in today's video, I'd like to talk a little bit about this game, what I liked about it, some of the things that I thought could be improved about it, and give you my overall impressions of Elemental Stones as a game. However, before I get into any of that, I do want to go ahead and let you know that Paizo did send me a physical copy of Elemental Stones for free for the purpose of doing a review on my channel. Now, allow me to say, Paizo did not try to influence this review in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The opinions expressed in this video are entirely my own. But I did receive this product for free, and allow me to say that in this particular instance, Paizo has really gone above and beyond in sending this to me. Paizo has a particular scale that they work with when it comes to content creators on YouTube, and I am very much in one of the small content creator categories. I normally do not receive free physical products. I do get a lot of free PDFs that I can use when I'm preparing reviews for this channel, but I am not eligible to receive physical products normally from Paizo. However, when Elemental Stones launched, I did reach out to Paizo and tell them that I was very interested in this game, and I expressly said, I completely understand that my channel is far too small to qualify to receive a physical product, but I would be interested if you're willing to make an exception, and they did in this case. So Paizo has been exceptionally generous in giving me this opportunity, and I do think it's important to be upfront about that before sharing my thoughts, opinions, and giving you the review in this video. So as with any review that I do on this channel, please remember that the opinions expressed in this video are just that. They are opinions, and the best review you will ever get of any product is to try it for yourself. So I strongly recommend trying this game out. Maybe you can try it out at a friend's house or a game store, or the next time you go to a game convention, maybe try out a demo there. I always recommend that you try before you buy for anything I talk about on this channel, and board games are no different in that regard. Still, when Paizo announced the Elemental Stones board game, I will admit that this was a game I was very excited to see, because as soon as I saw the concept work that was being pitched for Elemental Stones, it very much reminded me of another board game, which is this one, Ingenious. While I haven't played this game as much recently, there was a phase of my life where I can definitely say that I was obsessed with this game, and I played this game way too much. I introduced it to a lot of people. I had a lot of people who loved it. This game was in my car pretty much everywhere I went, and I played it all of the time. When I saw the promotional photos going out for Elemental Stones, it immediately reminded me of the game Ingenious, and I was almost instantly like, yes, I want to try this. This totally looks like something I used to love, so it's probably something I'm going to like now. And allow me to say up front that has been very true about Elemental Stones. After it came in, I invited some of my home Pathfinder gaming group to come over and play it with me, and Elemental Stones delivered on what I expected it to be, a very solid experience that I definitely think I'm going to be playing a lot in the future. But before I get to my specific thoughts, let me go ahead and get all of that YouTube stuff out of the way. Please remember, if you enjoy this content, like, share, and subscribe. You can check out my free Discord and my Patreon. All of those links will be in the video description. And of course, as always, the best thing you can do to help support this channel is to jump down to the comments section, leave your thoughts, your ideas, your questions. I absolutely love hearing from this community, and I definitely want to know what you think about this game, so definitely join in the conversation. With all that out of the way, let's get started. So I will admit up front that it was a little bit weird trying to approach reviewing a board game, because typically on this channel I'm reviewing gaming books instead. But I think my general philosophy of evaluating a product on the basis of what I think the utility of the product is going to be, I think that is still a reasonable standard for evaluating a board game, so I'm going to stick to the normal format that I do on this channel. I'm going to begin at the end, I'm going to give you my overall thoughts about this product, and then I will work my way through the review, talking about the components, talking about the strengths, the weaknesses, and maybe some of the things I'd like to see in future versions of this game, all to help you understand how I came to that overall conclusion. So, what is my overall grade for the Elemental Stones board game? Well, I'd like to give this game an overall grade of an A-, which, by the way, is pretty much the exact same grade that I would give one of my favorite games of all time, Ingenious. If you've ever played the game Ingenious and you liked that game, you will probably like Elemental Stones as well. I think they are very comparable products, and at least from this reviewer, that comparison is a very high compliment. I think this game is relatively simple to learn. I think that the presentation is really well done, and I think the designers have created a game that has a pretty healthy depth to its gameplay. While the rules are simple, the actual decisions you make get very complicated very quickly because of the various factors you're weighing when you play Elemental Stones, and it leads to a game where you definitely spend some time thinking about what's the right move, what's the best way to go forward, and it led to a very engaging play experience when I had a chance to sit down and try this with my friends. Additionally, in playtesting Elemental Stones, when me and my friends played this game, each of us took different approaches to how we tried to play the game. We had different strategies, different things we were going for, and no one felt like they had an unfair advantage or disadvantage in playing. The various strategies that you could use all felt reasonably competitive, and to give you an example, at the end of the very first game that I played, I actually won the game, but I only won by 3 points, and that was narrowly accomplished by the very last action that I took. So what I'm saying is, the game was really engaging, the game was really exciting, and it was really close. It wasn't clear who was going to win until we actually tallied the points. In terms of actual components, you have a game board with a series of hex spaces that are intended to lay out the elemental stones that you will be placing during the game, And this grid is very, very similar to Ingenious. It's part of the reason I've used that comparison in this video. And then around the edge of the board, you have elemental areas for 5 of the 6 elements represented in the game: water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. A major component of the rules of this game is the idea of adjacent elements. So, for example, metal is adjacent to both earth and water, and there's some mechanics in the game that play off of that adjacency idea. The game also comes with a healthy bag of elemental stones, hence the name of the game, that you will be placing on the board, and as the game progresses, your excess elemental stones will be piling up in those elemental areas that you saw around the board. As for your other components, one of the major drivers of the game is what's known as pattern cards. These are the elemental patterns that you're trying to create on the board, and they are worth points that help you win the game. There are more complex patterns, as well as more simple patterns, and during play you can decide which kinds of patterns you want to focus on. Do you want to go for the longer patterns that are worth more points, or do you want to try to rack up the score quickly by using simpler patterns? There are also what's known as objective cards, which might as well be considered secret objective cards that you can use to help score some bonus points at the end of the game. And then, of course, the game also comes with 5 cards representing the elemental lords that you are portraying during the game, and at the end of the game, you will score extra points for any pattern that you complete that corresponds to the elemental lord that you're playing. The game also comes with a few other components, like a turn reminder card and a starting player card, some fairly basic stuff, but overall the components of this game are pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and it won't take you a long time to figure these components out. In fact, that leads to one of the first major strengths of this game, which is the components of this game are simple, well laid out, and in fact they are so well laid out that once you have the game in front of you, it's pretty easy to remember exactly where components go, exactly what components do. This is a game that is very quick and easy to pick up. In one of the games of Elemental Stones that I played with my friends, my 3-year-old toddler was running around the table, and just looking at the artwork of the board and the stones, he was able to figure out where different stones were supposed to go on the board, and one of the biggest challenges for me and my friends was remembering what stones he added to the board that we needed to take away so we could continue with the game. As silly as that story may sound, I do think it speaks to the fact that Paizo's done a good job of setting this game up in a way where it is very clear what goes where, what does what, and putting the right visual cues into the game to make this game flow very smoothly, even for first-time players. In fact, that leads to the next strength that I'd like to talk about, which is overall the rules for Elemental Stones are very easy to learn. Now, for the sake of space, I'm not going to explain all of the rules in this video, but I will say that the rules are very straightforward, they're very clear-cut, they're very easy to understand, and I would say by the 3rd full round of the game that me and my friends played when we first opened the box, that we had all picked up the major components of the game and were playing it effectively. This game is easy to learn, but it's not necessarily simple to play. Sure, the rules are straightforward, but the things that you are considering is where the complexity of the game comes in. In the game Elemental Stones, you have your elemental lord, you have your secret objective, you have your patterns that you're trying to score, so you have your goals that you're aiming for, but some of your opponent's goals are obvious, and their other goals are something you might be able to work out if you're paying attention, and so there is a tension to the game between chasing your objectives, but also keeping an eye on what the other players are doing to hopefully avoid helping them out too much during the course of the game. Now yes, in the game Elemental Stones, you can make plays just specifically to mess up what another player is doing, but overall I found that the tension of the game seems to rest in that sweet spot between focusing on your objectives and just not helping your opponent too much along the way. At least in my personal experience, going out of your way to actively mess up another player often felt a little too costly. So I think the game avoids a heavily confrontational playstyle, but you do still need to pay attention to what other people are doing, and as a result you end up with a game where being able to do something is relatively simple and easy to understand, but figuring out what to do is where a lot of the complexity and depth of gameplay comes in, and I really enjoyed it. And that leads into the last strength that I want to talk about, which is the pacing of the game Elemental Stones. I think Jason Bowman was having a little bit of fun when he designed this game, because on your turn, you're going to get 3 actions and 1, how do I call it? It's not a reaction, it's a pre-action. So on your turn, the very first thing that you're going to do, your pre-action if you will, is pick up a small pile of elemental stones. There will be several piles laid out, and you have to decide which pile you want to use. And then, once you've added those elemental stones to your collection, you have 3 actions that you can perform, which can be any combination of actions that are available inside the game. If you've played Pathfinder 2nd Edition, yes, this sounds very, very familiar. And much like the 3 actions inside of Pathfinder 2e, this 3-action action economy of elemental stones ends up with a particular tension as well. You can do a lot of stuff, but never quite everything you want to do, meaning that balancing things like adding new patterns to your hand or switching out elemental stones for another element that is more useful to you, there is a constant tension around finding the right combination of actions, the most efficient way to do what you want to do in order to meet your goals. The very first game that I played, the 3 actions per round felt very, very generous, but very quickly into my first game, me and the other players all agreed that, man, there was a lot of tension. It was hard to figure out what we wanted to do, and it made the game very engaging. Overall, the core mechanics of this game are all really strong and a lot of fun, and I would say that this game is very approachable, very engaging, and definitely something that me and my friends enjoyed. However, no game is perfect, and there were a couple of points on elemental stones that did stand out to me. One of them was actually mentioned by one of my friends during the very first game that I played, which is the art in this game is nothing special. With the exception of the Elemental Lord cards, the art in this game is very basic. Don't get me wrong, it's clean, it's easy to understand. It is not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but when the only complex art you have is on 5 really small cards, it does leave the overall presentation kind of basic. And one of my friends was very quick to note that they would really love to see some expanded artwork, some alternate artwork for Elemental Lords, just a little extra pizzazz in future versions of this game. The artwork is certainly functional, but it's nothing to write home about. Another weakness of this product, and this is probably a complaint that is a little bit unique to my gaming table, but man, it hurts that this is a 4-player game. I know that 4 players is common for a lot of board games, and that seems to be the go-to standard in board games, but I honestly cannot count the number of times over my life that my wife and I have found ourselves in a situation where we needed a 5-player game. Seriously, the difference between a 4-player game and a 5-player game makes a huge difference for how often something gets brought out at our gaming table. In fact, one of the reasons that Ingenious doesn't get played as much as it used to around my gaming table is it is also a 4-player game, and there's just not as many opportunities for me to play it. Elemental Stones is in that similar category for me. I realize for most tables, 4 players for a board game is plenty, and if that is true for your table, then this particular weakness isn't going to mean a lot to you, but for my table, I definitely felt the sting of that. Honestly, overall, I think that Elemental Stones is a very fun game, and I do think that I'm going to play this game a lot and try it out with a lot of friends. I definitely see myself busting this out with a lot of different people. But down the road, if Paizo decided to develop a premium version of Elemental Stones that was expanded for 5 players and maybe had a little bit of extra artwork thrown in, I would be all on board for that because I think that would make this game just absolutely perfect for me and my gaming table. Those weaknesses are small, but they were noticeable, and I think those changes would be relatively simple if Paizo were to revisit this game in the future. Still, for a first board game that Paizo has published, Elemental Stones was definitely a hit for me and my friends, and this is something I'm really glad I'm going to get to play going forward. But the time has come for me to turn the conversation over to you. What are your thoughts about the game Elemental Stones? Have you tried it? And if so, what did you think? If you haven't tried it, does this game sound like something that you would want to play? Or do you have other questions that you would like to ask? Jump down to the comments section, leave your thoughts and questions down there. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that you have about this game. Don't forget to do all of that other YouTube stuff. Like, share, subscribe, check out my free Discord and my Patreon, links in the video description. But as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. Have a wonderful day.